Devotees, Hare Krishna. So, so Hare Krishna, welcome to all the assembled devotees. I extend my deepest gratitude towards Subal Prabhuji and all the assembled Vaishnavas who has given me this opportunity to speak about the Lord, and especially on the on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this chapter is the base on which the building of Srimad Bhagavatam has been built. So this is a very important chapter to dive in, and it talks about Maharaj Parikshit and Sukdev Goswami basically, and on their conversation only this whole Srimad Bhagavatam is being narrated very beautifully and wonderfully for us. So thank you so very much. So we'll do Mangalacharana and we'll start today's topic. And today is also as per English calendar, today is the last working day of the week, of the month, and of the year. So it's a very nice opportunity for us to to end this year with the glorification of the Lord and to start the next year also with the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, so that we can always do Tushyanticha Ramanticha and engage ourselves in these beautiful pastimes of the Lord. They are not only just a pastimes or not only a leela or some imaginary stories like they all say, like people say, kalpanic stories, myth or mythology. It is a real stories, and it is full of teachings. So that's why it has been put or it has been mentioned in this beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. And each and every character is really unique, and it helps us to take some good teachings and learn something from these great souls like Parikshit Maharaj and Sukdev Goswami and this Saunakadi Rishis and Sutta Goswami. So it's a very wonderful gift given by Vyasdev on the request of Srila Narad Muni. So let us start our Mangalacharan and then we will dive into today's topic and the beautiful verses. Hare Krishna. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप गदामह्यं ददाति स्वापदन्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सगणरघुनाथन्वितं तं सजीवम् साधवतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सगणललिता श्रीशगान्वितं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठ भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मुखं करोति वाचालं मगं लिङ्गयते गिरिं यत्रपदो वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दिन्तारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम् Hare Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 12. The chapter is entitled Birth of Emperor Parikshit. And so we will start from the very verse number text 1. And Srimad Bhagavatam. So it has been said in the first canto, third chapter and verse number 43 that Krishna Swadhamo Pagate Dharma Jnana Divisaha Kalau Nashta Trishamesha Puranarko Adunoditaha. So before beginning with the topic of the Srimad Bhagavatam, let us try and glorify Srimad Bhagavatam, because we are like a dwarf persons and Srimad Bhagavatam is like moon. So we are not able to touch this beautiful moon. But if we pray to the moon will come down and it will help us, to touch it slightly or to have the touch of his beautiful rays. So that's why once we will pray and glorify Srimad Bhagavatam, then it will give us that enthusiasm and motivation. And Srimad Bhagavatam will help us to reveal in the line of the acharyas and our guru vrindas who have done lots of efforts in giving this beautiful commentary and this beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. Especially we extend our deepest gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. Because of him we are able to read and get to know these beautiful stories and teachings of this Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures. So in this particular verse which we just recited, Krishna Swadhama Pagate. So at the end of Dwapar Yuga, when Krishna decided to, to leave this Bhuloko Vrindavan, or to leave this Bhuloko, and he decided to go back to his Goloka Vrindavan. So Krishna Swadhama Pagate. So as he departed from this earthly planet towards his Goloka Vrindavan, Dharma Jnanadhibisa. So the dharma, knowledge, the religion, dharma, knowledge, and other principles also went along with him. Dharma Jnanadhibisa. Kalau Nashta. And because of them, dharma, knowledge, religion, principles, the Siddhantas all went back with Lord Sri Krishna. So because of this, what happened? Kalau Nashta Drishyam Mesha. The people of the coming age of Kali Yuga, they lost their vision to see things in the right perspective, in the right manner. They lost their vision. Kalau Nashta Drishyam Mesha. Purana Arko Adunodita. So as the people of Kali Yuga lost their vision, they lost their dharma, they lost their principles, they lost their knowledge. So Srimad Bhagavatam, just like a rising sun, it appeared to give the sunshine to all the people in general of the age of Kali Yuga, so that they can take advantage of this beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are stories, there are principles, there are siddhantas, there is knowledge, and there is lots teachings which we discussed uh, earlier also, that it gives us, it is a it is a blend of all. Thriller is there, romance is there, which is in transcendental way. So all topics, fighting, chivalry, all rasas are there in Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no requirement, or there is no necessity to read other literatures. And we don't have time also to read other literatures. So Srimad Bhagavatam is like an encyclopedia. It gives us the what we say, the rasa, or the essence of all the Vedic literatures, which is very important for us in our day-to-day lives. So not only the Srimad Bhagavatam talks from the story perspective, of course, from the story perspective also it is very nice for children and for us also. But from the other perspective, from the knowledge perspective, teaching perspective, devotion perspective, it is also really beneficial for us to imbibe these beautiful qualities and teachings in our day-to-day lives, so that we can also live our life in the footsteps of such devotees who are, devoted to the service of the Lord Sri Krishna and his pure devotees. So, because of Kali Yuga, all the people lost their lives. So, Srimad Bhagavatam appeared like a rising sun, and Srimad Bhagavatam gives us light in every aspect of our life. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur says that if the people of the whole world loses all books, but if they have Srimad Bhagavatam, then nothing is lost. He means to say that if the people of the world loses all literatures, Vedic literatures, Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, Atharva Ved, all Upanishad, 108 Upanishads, the Itihasas, Puranas and all, if they lose all these Puranas also, no problem. But if Srimad Bhagavatam is there, they have, they have lost nothing. So this is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is so Amal Puran. It is Amal Puranam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. And it is very dear to the devotees. Because, because Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, his teachings, but how to walk on the path of those teachings. So that path can be taken from Srimad Bhagavatam, where all the devotees, where here we see how they have beautifully dedicated their lives in the service of the Lord, and how they are submissive towards the Lord and his pure devotees. So this is the beautiful aspect which which can help us to guide that how we should live our life uh, in this world, in this mortal world. So His Holiness Radhana Swami Maharaj also says in one of his lectures, he says that Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us two things: how to live in this world and how to live from this world. So this is the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, which not only gives us teachings, but it also shows us the path so that we can end up this. We can put full stop to the sufferings of this world, and we can go back home, back to God and our eternal residence. So, with this glorification, we will just enter our today's shloka. We will start up with our today's shloka. So, the chapter 12, Birth of Emperor Parikshit, and shloka number 1, text 1. Srimad Bhagavatam. So, this is the first verse which is spoken by Shaunak Muni, and he is inquiring from Shila Suta Goswami. So, Saunaka Vacha अश्वत्थामानुपास्त्रेण ब्रह्म शीर्षो नुरु तेजस उत्तराय हतो गर्भा ईशेन जीवितः पुनः. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
The
The
sage,
sage saw.
I'll
Yes,
speak.
Prabhuji.
We'll read.
Yes.
The sage Shaunak said, the womb of Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit, was spoiled by the dreadful and invincible Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwatthama, but Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Supreme Lord. The sages assembled in the forest of Naimisharan inquired from the Sud Goswami about the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, but in the course of the narration, other topics like the release of Brahmastra by the son of Drone, his punishment by Arjuna, Queen Kunti Devi prayers, the Pandavas' visit to the place where Bhishma Dev was lying, his prayers, and thereafter the Lord's departure for Dwarka were discussed. His arrival at Dwarka and residing with the 16,000 queens, etc., were narrated. The sages were absorbed in hearing such description, but now they wanted to turn to the original topic, and thus the inquiry was made by Shaunak Rishi. So the subject of the release of the Brahmastra weapon by Ashwatthama is renewed.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, so very nice shloka. In the beginning, this Shaunak Rishi are inquiring from Suta Goswami that what happened. You started one topic earlier about the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, and in between you told us a lot of prayers of Kunti's and Bhishma Deva's prayers, and Krishna visits Dwarka, and Krishna departs from Hastinapur and all. So these topics are really, really nice. Suta Goswami, thank you so very much. So they are extending their gratitude towards Suta Goswami, but now they are also stressing upon the point uh, from which they have started their conversation. And that conversation is about the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, because they were really excited to know that how this Maharaj Parikshit, even though he was the emperor of the whole world, in the line of Pandavas, then how come he has got 7 days and how he has perfected his life? So that's why they are inquiring from Shri Suta Goswami. And Suta Goswami is also, uh, uh, Suta Goswami was also present while Sukdev Goswami was narrating the Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. And in that assembly where Narad Muni, Vyasdev, Suta Goswami, and many other learned sages and Rishi Munis, sadhus, sannyasis from all over the universe, they came there to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So now this Shaunak Rishi is really excited, and on behalf of this uh, 88,000 Rishi Munis at Naimisharanya, he puts this inquiry. So can you kindly narrate us that pastime also, that story also, that how this Maharaj Parikshit born and how he has received the age of Kali, and how he took the shelter of Shri Sukdev Goswami, and after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, how he perfected this life. So they are asking these questions, as we can see in the earlier chapter also that the sages ask the first six principal questions to the Suta Goswami. Uh, and then this Suta Goswami starts narrating this all their inquiries in the form of these beautiful stories. So this Bhagavatam is also, this is also very wonderful aspect, because when two peoples are having conversation, sometimes we get bored. But when in between the two people, other two people or other three people comes, then it gives a nice mellow, or it gives us a nice flavor. It adds a nice flavor to the conversation, and it also inspires us to learn more and more, to hear more and more from this all these great personalities. So similarly, this is Srimad Bhagavatam also. Not only this Parikshit Maharaj and Sukdev Goswami are having conversation, but Saunak Rishi and Suta Goswami are also having conversation. In the last chapter, Sri heard that in between their conversation, Kunti Maharani and Lord Krishna's conversation is also there. Uttara's and Lord Krishna's conversation is also there. Bhishma and Yudhishthir's conversation is also there. So this, there are stories wrapped up one after another in such a nice way that they are giving us teachings, and they are helping us to know more about the Lord and His pure devotees, and the qualities of the Lord and His pure devotees qualities. And this will help us to bring those qualities in ourselves also, so that we become dear to the Lord. So that's why this is the introduction, this verse where Shukdev Goswami, where this Rishi, Saunak Rishi, Saunagadi Rishi are putting inquiry, are putting inquiry in front of Shashila Suta Goswami, and they are taking full opportunity of the presence of the Suta Goswami. So this is the teaching we can take from here also. Whenever we see a sadhu or a Vaishnava, we should try to serve him, or we should try to hear from him. So because just hearing from a sadhu or a Vaishnava, what happens is our all sinful reactions are are burned to ashes, and our all the knots within our hearts, they are also removed, and we become purified. So this is the beauty of the association of the Vaishnavas. So these Saunakadi rishis are taking full opportunity of their Sutta Goswami's presence. And earlier they were doing yajna, but they have stopped all their yajnas so that they can hear from Sutta Goswami, who heard from Shila Sukdev Goswami in the assembly of all the assembled Vaishnavas along with Parikshit Maharaj. So this is a very nice teaching for us to adapt from this beautiful verse. Now we'll go to the next verse. Text 2. तस्य जन्म महाबुद्धेः कर्माणि च महात्मनः निधनं च यथा एवसीत् सप्रीत्या गतवान् यथा. Translation in purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Sri Krishna. How was a great Emperor Parikshit, who was a highly intelligent and great devotee, born in that womb? How did his death take place? And what did he achieve after his death? Purport. The king of Astinapura, now Delhi, used to be the emperor of the world, at least till the time of the son of Emperor Parikshit. Maharaja Parikshit was saved by the Lord in the womb of his mother, so he could certainly be saved from an untimely death due to the ill will of the son of a Brahmana. Because the age of Kali began to act just after the assumption of power by Maharaja Parikshit, the first sign of misgivings was exhibited in the cursing of such a greatly intelligent and devoted king as Maharaja Parikshit. The king is the protector of the helpless citizens, and their welfare, peace, and prosperity depend on him. Unfortunately, by the instigation of the fallen age of Kali, the unfortunate Brahmana's son was employed to condemn the innocent Maharaja Parikshit. And so the king had to prepare himself for death within 7 days. Maharaja Parikshit is especially famous as one who is protected by Vishnu. And when he was unduly cursed by a Brahmana's son, he could he could have invoked the mercy of the Lord to save him, but he did not want to because he was a pure devotee. A pure devotee never asked the Lord for any undue favor. Maharaja Parikshit knew that the curse of the Brahmana's son upon him was unjustified, as everyone else knew, but he did not want to counteract it because he knew also that the age of Kali had begun and that the first symptom of the age, namely degradation of the highly talented Brahmana community, and also began. He did not want to interfere with the current of the time, but he prepared himself to meet death very cheerfully and very properly. Being fortunate, he got at least 7 days to prepare himself to meet death, and so he properly utilized the time in the association of Sukadeva Goswami, the great saint and devotee of the Lord. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So this in front of Sutta Goswami, this Saunak Rishi is putting another question, that how this Maharaj Parikshit was born, and he was highly intelligent and great devotee. So how was his birth took place, and how he died, or how he left this mortal world. So this is the question they are submissively asking in front of the Sutta Goswami. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes so wonderfully about this Hastinapur and age of Kali Yuga and all. So, so Hastinapur at that time was the capital of the whole world. And not only Bharatvarsh, now today Delhi is the capital of India. But in those times, up to Maharaj Parikshit's, uh, when he was ruling the kingdom, or he was ruling this he was not only a king, he was the emperor. Emperor means he was the king of the whole earth. So he was the king of the whole earth. So this Maharaj Parikshit was such a great king and emperor. And how, in spite of having all this, how he was been cursed, and what went wrong that he was cursed. So in this way, they are putting all questions in front of Sutta Goswami. And this Bhagavad Gita is also about this question and answers. Arjuna puts questions, and Dhritarashtra put questions, and Sanjaya answers him, and Lord Krishna also answers Arjuna the questions put by him. So similarly, here also, this in Srimad Bhagavatam also, there is a, question and answers, because when we will ask perfect questions, then only we'll be able to get perfect answers. So this type of questions is the right questions which we should ask about the Lord and his pure devotees. Because generally, we see that people waste so much time in cricket, in football, or in money, women, wine, and so many, this Christmas and all. So many. Of course, this is a part of life, but they gave too much importance and make it as a heart of life. So this is a part. Of course, this is not bad to talk about it, but they are too much into discussion and arguments. But the real discussion should be of Krishna or the Lord and his pure devotees, because by hearing their conversation, or by hearing their conversation, not only we get knowledge, but our heart becomes purified, and we become more close, more close, more close to the Lord. And uh, as Maharaj Parikshit was ruling the kingdom nicely, but in due course of time, that owing to one small mistake, that he garlanded the dead snake on the Muni's shoulder. So his son Shringi cursed him that he will has to die in 7 days. So because of this thing, this curse came upon Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj, he didn't retaliate. Of course, he was the emperor of the whole world. It was in his hands. It has been explained by acharyas that it was in his hands to counteract that curse which was given to him by the Brahmana's son Shringi. Of course, that story is also very detailed and wonderful story, which we will hear in the coming chapters. So. Samik Rishi was the Rishi's name, to whom Maharaj Parikshit garlanded a dead snake. So his son Shringi gave a curse to Maharaj Parikshit that you will die in 7 days. And Parikshit Maharaj took this curse as an opportunity to hear or meditate upon the Lord. Because being an emperor of the whole world, he was having so many responsibilities and duties towards his country or towards his kinsmen. But when he got this curse, so he thought this is a mercy of the Lord, and he embraced that curse, and he thought, now let me dedicate my full time, my remaining full whatever time I have left in 7 days. Let me dedicate this to the to do something beneficial for my life, so that I can depart very happily from this mortal world. So because of this thing, and he is also known as Vishnu Ratta. Maharaj Parikshit is also named as Vishnu Rat, because when Maharaj Parikshit was born, Ashwadhama released this Brahmastra in order to finish the last uh, this last son of the whole Pandu dynasty or the Kuru dynasty. So Ashwadhama released the Brahmastra weapon, and Lord Krishna in his Chaturbhuj form, he from outside and from inside the womb he protected Maharaj Parikshit. And it is also very interesting that Maharaj Parikshit has already got the darshan of the Lord in his womb, but still he has been gone through this different phase in life because of the mercy of the Lord. Of course, from external perspective, we may say that, oh, the Lord has not done right towards Parikshit Maharaj, that he will die in 7 days, and he is such a young king and all. But from an internal perspective, the Lord wanted to give darshan to Maharaj Parikshit Maharaj as he gave in the womb of his mother. So similarly, Lord Sri Krishna wanted to bring the Srimad Bhagavatam through the medium of Parikshit Maharaj for the people in general, for the age of Kali Yuga. So that's why he arranged the situation, and Maharaj Parikshit ended up in making this small mistake, and Shringi, he got the curse from Shringi, and then he has to die in 7 days. But the devotees of the Lord never die. As we The acharyas give very nice example that as we travel from one place to another, for example, if I'm taking night flight from uh, Dubai to India, so in the night I will board the flight, but I will get down from the flight from the next morning in India. So that doesn't mean that I slept or I died. Of course, for time being, I slept, but then I again woke up and enter into the India or the India capital, wherever destination I have selected. So similarly, the acharyas also explain that this is same with the devotees also. The devotees, death is like sleep for them. So they sleep here and they wake up there. So there is no problem, or there is no trouble to the devotee, because the devotee always searches for the Lord and his service. This is the two things the devotee always aspire for: the Lord and his service. So this is the two things which we should also take from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that how Maharaj Parikshit dedicated his life in the service of the Lord, or dedicated his final days in the service of the Lord. Because in those final 7 days, if he would have desired, he could have enjoyed like anything, because he was the emperor of the world and everything was profusely available for him to enjoy. But still, he chosen the path of Krishna consciousness. So those who choose the Lord always protects them from all the difficulties. So, and Maharaj Parikshit, he had the darshan, he had the opportunity to take darshan of the Lord in the womb of his mother. So he was really happy, and he saw the Lord that he is wearing such a pitambar vastra, yellow silken garments, and adorned with different beautiful ornaments. So he was really attracted by this beautiful form of the Lord. So after his birth, he was also searching for the Lord, because in the womb he took the darshan of the Lord in this beautiful attire. So he was looking for that beautiful Lord. So he used to crawl around, and he used to see that who has given me the darshan in my uh, when I was in the womb of my mother. So at that time, so he was examining like this. So as he was doing parikshan, or he was examining that who came in the womb of my mother and protected me, who was that beautiful person. So as he was examining like this, so he was being named as Parikshit, because he was doing pariksha, or he was doing pariksha. He was examining that who came and protected me. And because of this, he was named as Maharaj Parikshit. So this is also a very interesting lesson we can learn from the Lord, that pure devotee of the Lord, or the devotees of the Lord, always searches and hankers for the Lord, because we are, once we are in this material world, we are encircled with so many people that it becomes very difficult to remember the Lord or to think of the Lord. But when we come in the association, or when we come in such beautiful contact of the Lord and pure devotees, and once we get attached to him, as Maharaj Parikshit got attached to him, so it becomes easy for us to remember the Lord. And in the Shastra also says, Martavya Satatam Vishnur, Vismartavyo na Jatu Chit, Sarve Vidhi Nishedayur, Etayor Evakin Kara. That our greatest wealth is to remember Lord Krishna. Because if we remember the Lord, then the Lord will also remember us. And not only that, but the Lord will take special care for us. Srila Prabhupada writes in one of his purports that when we surrender to the Lord, when we think of the Lord, then the Lord also takes special care in giving us protection, in giving us the guidance, so that we can serve Him nicely and go back home, back to Godhead. So Maharaj Parikshit did not counteracted the curse of the Brahmana's boy. So he embraced it with wholeheartedly and tyaktva, and he left his kingdom in searching for the absolute truth, or the duty of a person who is left with his last 7 days. So our Acharya says that Parikshit Maharaj already got the intimation that he would die in 7 days, but we didn't got any intimation that we will die in 7 days. But anyhow, we should understand, or we should take lesson from this, that in 7 days we also have to die. And what are the 7 days? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. In either of these days, we also have to leave this world. So we should also prepare, uh, with like Parikshit Maharaj have given his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. So similarly, we should also take time out in hearing these beautiful pastimes of the Lord and His pure devotees. Hare Krishna. So we'll move on to our next verse, text number 3. तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गतितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धानानां यस्य ज्ञानम् अदक्षुकः. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Mataji. Anybody would like to read?
Yeah, I can read, Prabhuji. We all respectfully want to hear about him, Maharaja Parikshit, to whom Sukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge. Please speak on this matter. Purport. Sukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge to Maharaj Parikshit during the remaining 7 days of his life. And Maharaja Parikshit heard him properly, just like an ardent student. The effect of such a bona fide hearing and chanting of Srimad Bhagavatam was equally shared by both the hearer and the chanter. Both of them were benefited. Out of the 9 different transcendental means of devotional service to the Lord prescribed in the Bhagavatam, either all of them or some of them or even one of them are equally beneficial if properly discharged. Maharaja Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami were serious performers of the first 2 important items, namely the process of chanting and the process of hearing, and therefore both of them were successful in their laudable attempt. Transcendental realization is attained by such serious hearing and chanting and not otherwise. There is a type of spiritual master and disciple much advertised in the age of Kali. It is said that the master injects spiritual force into the disciple by an electrical current generated by the master, and the disciple begins to feel the shock. He becomes unconscious, and the master weeps for his exhausting his store of so-called spiritual assets. Such bogus advertisement is going on in this age, and the poor common man is becoming the victim of such advertisement. We do not find such folk tales in the dealings of Sukadeva Goswami and his great disciple Maharaja Parikshit. The sage recited Srimad Bhagavatam in devotion. And the great king heard him properly. The king did not feel any shock of electrical current from the master, and nor did he become unconscious while receiving knowledge from the master. One should not therefore become a victim of these unauthorized advertisements made by some bogus representatives of Vedic knowledge. The sages of Naimisharanya were very respectful in hearing about Maharaja Parikshit because of his receiving knowledge from Sukadeva Goswami by means of ardent hearing. Ardent hearing from the bona fide master is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge, and there is no need for medical performances or occult mysticism for miraculous effects. The process is simple, but only the sincere party can achieve the desired result. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhuji. Srila Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness is simple for simple and complex for complex. So if we become simple and transparent at our heart, then it becomes very easy for us to take this matter of transcendental knowledge into our hearts and life. But if we are too much complicated, if we are having that doubting mentality, if we are having that uh, um, lack of faith, then also we will not be able to understand or take this matter very seriously in our hearts. So that's why this faith is the first primemost thing which we should have from whom we are hearing. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very nice word. It says, "Shraddha Shabda Vishwasa Kahe Sudrida Nishchaya, Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarvakrit Hoya." That Shraddha Shabda Vishwasa Kahe Sudrida Nishchaya. That we should have Shraddha. Shraddha means Sudrida Nishchaya, not only unshakable faith. Shraddha Shabda Vishwasa Kahe Sudrida Nishchaya, Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krit Hoya. Yet we should have this Shraddha, or we should have this unflinching faith that just by surrendering to the Lord or just by doing my duties in a Krishna conscious way, Sarva Karma Krit Hoya. All my works or all my problems will be solved, and I will be happy and peaceful and I will be joyful. So this faith we should have in the Lord, that, oh Lord, since I am following you, oh Lord, since I have surrendered you, so now it is your duty to protect me. I will only serve you and I will only obey or follow your instructions. So this is the meaning of the word faith or Shraddha, which our Acharya is very nice. Apart from that, uh, here this Shukdev Goswami is the one who narrated the pastimes of the Lord from uh, from starting from the Dwarka pastimes, Kunti prayer pastime, sorry, starting from the Maharaj Parikshit's uh, from Maharaj Parikshit's surrender to till the end of Dasham Skand and all. Sukdev Goswami narrates everything to Maharaj Parikshit. And Maharaj Parikshit also in between, he was so enthusiastic that he he was above this uh, three modes of material nature. Not only that, he was beyond this sleep, eating and sleeping, eating, sleeping, and he was really rapt. He was hearing this katha from Shukdev Goswami with a rapt attention, that he was not been troubled by sleep and this eating, because he was not troubled by hunger as well, because he was feeling so much satisfaction that he didn't bother to have some prasadam or to take some break, or he had taken some rest. So since for 7 days 7 nights he was continuously hearing the nectar from the lips of Shukdev Goswami through the medium of his ears, and he was purifying his heart. So this is the process of hearing and chanting. So the our spiritual life starts from this hearing process, because Prahlad Maharaj also says that smaranam, kirtanam, Vishnu smaranam, pad sevanam, archanam, dasyam, sakhyam, atma nivedanam. That these are the nine limbs of bhakti, but the process of this bhakti or the spiritual knowledge starts from hearing. So hearing is also very important, and from the proper source, from the right source, from the bona fide parampara, we should hear and we should try to imbibe those teachings in our day-to-day life. Because Parikshit Maharaj is the best example of how we should hear. We should hear with rapt attention, and not only we should hear, we should apply or meditate on what we should hear. Like the cow also, when the cow gets time, so she eats grass, but when she is alone, so she starts to again chew. She again brings that grass to her mouth, and she again chews it and takes the relishment. So similarly, the devotees also, after hearing Krishna Katha, once they try to meditate upon that Krishna Katha or the pastimes of the Lord, and in that way they relish this beautiful teachings and the conversation of the Lord and his pure devotees, and they make their life perfect. So this is not a one-way process, this is a two-way process. We should also hear very nicely from such authorized person, and secondly, the authorized person uh, should also come from a proper sampradaya, and he should also he should also ready to impart that knowledge which he received from his spiritual master. So this is the process called as descending process, because tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnana sevaya upadikshantite jnanam jnanina darshina, that whatever our problems are there, we should try to surrender to one particular guru or sampradaya, and we should serve him nicely. And after serving him, we should inquire submissively that, "Oh Gurudev, oh Acharya, please explain to me. I am not able to understand what is the purpose of my life and why I am suffering, why good things happens to bad people." This is the inquiries we should ask submissively. And after hearing those inquiries, or after hearing the answers of our inquiries, we should leave, or we should walk that path, and we should make our life successful. So Sukdev Goswami was narrating because he was the son of Vyasdeva, and Parikshit Maharaj, he was the higher of these Pandavas. So both were the pure devotees of the Lord. And when they started hearing and chanting the Krishna Katha, so what happened? All the atmosphere became surcharged with Krishna Katha, and they were very pleased to exchange such Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. Shukdev Goswami was narrating, he was doing Kirtanam, and Parikshit Maharaj was doing Shravanam. Shravanam means to hear. And just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days, 7 nights continuously, he made his life perfect, and he went back home, back to Godhead. So, this is a very important limb of our bhakti, to hear about the Lord and to meditate and to walk on the teachings of the subject matter which we are hearing. So here also very nice inquiry has been put about the transcendental knowledge which Sukdev Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. Because Sukdev Goswami didn't spoke any worldly things. Of course, he spoke about many other things also, but that is all in relation with Krishna. So of course, we are living also in this material world, but we connect everything to Krishna, then that will also be called it as Krishna consciousness, because we should always try to remain ourselves in Krishna's consciousness, because this consciousness, so Srila Prabhupada gave our movement International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Why? Because he wanted to show the world that it is not your money, it is not your wealth, power, and prestige or other things will help. It is just your consciousness that will help us to attract the attention of the Lord. That's why the one name of the Lord is Bhavagrahi Janardhan. He is he is after the bhav or love which through which you offer him the things. The Lord is not behind our things, money and other things, because he is Lakshmi Pati. He is Param Purushottam. He is full in himself. He is Atmaram. But when a devotee offers with love and devotion anything, the Lord accepts it very happily, and the Lord reciprocates with the devotee. So similarly, just by hearing or doing or by chanting the glories of the Lord, what happens? We also establish our lost connection with the Lord, and slowly and steadily the Lord reciprocates with us in some way or other. Text number 4. Suta Uvacha अपीपला धर्मराजः पितृवद्राज्य रञ्जयन् प्रजः निष्प्रह सर्वकामेभ्य कृष्णपादानुसेवया. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Shri Sut Goswami said, Emperor Yudhishthir administered generously to everyone during his reign. He was exactly like his father. He had no personal ambition, and he was freed from all sorts of sense gratification because of his continuous service unto the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna. As mentioned in our introduction, this is there is a need for the science of Krishna in human society and for all the suffering humanity of the world. And we simply request the leading personalities of all nations to take it to the science of Krishna for their own good, for the good of society, and for the good of all people of the world. So it is confirmed herein by the example of Maharaj Yudhishthir, the personality of goodness. In India, the people hanker after Ram Rajya because the personality of the Godhead was the ideal king, and all other kings of or emperors in India controlled the destiny of the world for the prosperity of every living being who took birth on the earth. Herein, the word praja is significant. The etymological import of the word is that which is born. On the earth, there are many species of life, from the aquatics up to the perfect human beings, and all are known as prajas. Lord Brahma, the creator of the particular universe, is known as a Prajapati because he is the grandfather of all who have taken birth. There, thus, the praja is used in a broader sense than it is now used. The king represents all living beings, the aquatics, plants, trees, reptiles, birds, animals, and man. Every one of them is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita 14.4. And the king, being the representative of the Supreme Lord, is duty bound to give proper protection to every one of them. This is not the case with the president and dictators of this demoralized system of administration, where the lower animals are given no protection while the higher animals are given so called protection. But this is a great science which can be learned only by one who knows the science of Krishna. By knowing the science of Krishna, one can become the most perfect man in the world. And unless one has knowledge in this science, all qualifications and doctorate diplomas acquired by academic education are spoiled and useless. Maharaj Yudhishthir knew the science of Krishna very well, for it is stated here that by continuous cultivation of this science or by continuous devotional service of the Lord Krishna to Lord Krishna, he acquired the qualification of administering the state. The father is sometimes seemingly cruel to the son, but that does not mean that the father has lost the qualification to be a father. A father is always a father because he always has the good of the son at heart. The father wants every one of his sons to become a better man than himself. Therefore, a king like Maharaj Yudhishthir, who was the personality of the goodness, wanted everyone under his administration, especially the human beings who have better developed consciousness, to become devotees of the Krishna, so that everyone can become free from the triples of material existence. His motto of administration was all good for the citizens, for as personified goodness, he knew perfectly well what is exactly good for them. He conducted the administration on that principle and not on the Ra- Rakshashi demonic principle of sense gratification. As an ideal king, he had no personal ambition and there was no place for sense gratification because all his senses at all times were engaged in the loving service of the Supreme Lord, which includes the partial service to the living being who form the parts and parcels of the complete whole. Those who are busy rendering service to the parts and parcels, leaving aside the whole, only spoil time and energy, as one does when watering the leaves of the tree without watering the root. If water is poured on the root, the leaves are enlivened perfectly and automatically. But if water is poured on the leaves only, the whole energy is spoiled. Maharaj Yudhishthir therefore was constantly engaged in the service of the Lord, and thus the parts and parcel of the Lord, the living beings under his careful administration, were perfectly attended with all comforts of this life, of in this life, and all progress in the next. This is the way of perfect management of state administration. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro. So Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice purport as Srila Sutta Goswami starts speaking to the uh, to the answers of the questions of the Saunakadi rishis. So now here also a very interesting thing. Before Maharaj Shukdev Goswami speaks, or Sutta Goswami speaks here about Maharaj Parikshit, he speaks first about Maharaj Yudhishthir, that who was Maharaj Yudhishthir and how he led or how he ruled his kingdom, and then how he handed over to his Maharaj Parikshit. So that's why it has been described about Yudhishthir Maharaj also here, and what should be the qualities of the devotees. This is also very nicely explained by Srila Prabhupada here. That Maharaj Yudhishthir was also known as Ajata Shatru. Of course, Ajatashatru is a very exalted term, and it is only used in relation to the Maharaj Yudhishthir, because many people were envious of Yudhishthir Maharaj and they were thinking him as his enemy. But Yudhishthir Maharaj never thought that he is my enemy. He always considered everybody as the parts and parcels of the Lord. So he was always seeing the Lord in everybody's heart. Of course, the envious or the enemies don't see them likewise, but still he was always respectful towards everybody. So this was a very good qualification of Maharaj Yudhishthir. And secondly, Srila Prabhupada also oftenly talks about it that people nowadays they say this is my national day, national festival, and national nationalism. But Srila Prabhupada said you're telling about this country is national, but you are only giving protection to the humans, but you are not giving protection to the animals. So how come your country is national? Because in nationality everybody should have equal right. But here in today's society, people just for the sake of their tongue's taste, they kill so much these innocent animals for their tongue's satisfaction. So this should be stopped, which we can learn from Srila Prabhupada's this wonderful purport. And he was the Prajapati. Yudhishthir Maharaj was also known as Prajapati. Why? Because all the people in general, uh, through where he was the king of the whole world, emperor. So all the people in general, they were his subjects. So the Yudhishthir Maharaj was treating them as their own sons and children, because Raja is the representative of the Lord. The king is the representative of the Lord. So he should act as the Lord acts. He should give everybody the chance to go back home, back to Godhead, or the chance to awaken themselves in the science of the spiritual realization. So here Yudhishthir Maharaj and several other kings also, like Lord Ramchandra, Lord Ramchandra, or this other kings, they like Maharaj Chitraketu, Maharaj Shibi. So they were all righteous kings, and they all led their life in such a way that they were taking good care of their subjects, and they were taking care of them as if they were his childrens. So this is also a very nice word which we can learn from here. Ram Rajya. That people always says that we want Ram Rajya, Ram Rajya, but are they? But they are having the propensity of Ravana, because they always want money, but they don't want this Narayan. They always want Lakshmi, but they don't want Narayan. And Lakshmi is also very chaste lady. She is always devoted to her husband Narayan. So if we become devoted to Lord Narayan or Lord Ram, so then definitely if we follow the teachings of the Lord Ram or the Siddhantas of Lord Ram, then we should also have this Ram Rajya. Because in Lord Ramchandra's Rajya, or during his ruling, if all things were falling in the right place. Nowadays, we see this weather is changing. Not all seasons are appearing in a proper cycle. This is all due to the demonic civilization. Of course, nowadays people are getting too much attached to the Western culture, and simultaneously they are becoming atheist. Because of this reason, we are facing this so many difficulties. But Srila Prabhupada said that if these people in general who are leaders now, if they take up this Krishna consciousness, if they take up the science of Krishna consciousness this more, then what will happen? Just by seeing them, all the people in general, the mass of people will also follow them, and they will also become Krishna consciousness. So there is no loss in becoming Krishna consciousness, in loss in becoming Krishna conscious, because just by becoming Krishna conscious, we become compassionate to all the other living entities. As Yudhishthir Maharaj was very compassionate to all the living entities, Parikshit Maharaj was also very compassionate towards all living entities. That's why he stopped the Kali Yuga to enter into his kingdom, which we will see in the coming chapters. But nowadays, these people are engrossed in only satisfying their senses. So this Srila Prabhupada has named as sense gratification. But there is no end to this sense gratification. Just for tongue, for the taste of tongue, people are killing innocent animals. This is not right. The right thing is to follow the scriptures or follow the kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir and Parikshit, because these kings were not ordinary kings. They were named as Raja Rishi, because although they were Kshatriya kings who can kill somebody or who were ready to fight for kingdom, but they were all like rishis. They were all leading their life like rishis. Rishis in the sense they were as the rishis or sadhus or the saints, they don't do partiality to anybody. So similarly, these kings were also impartial to all the people in general, and they were trying to take care of these people in general, not only this roti kapda makan, but they were also taking care of them in the form of dhoti kurta harinam. Or we can say they were not only fulfilling their bodily needs, but these kings were also giving them the spiritual knowledge through which they can imbibe this spiritual knowledge in their lives and then pass on to the future generations, and then they can go back home, back to Godhead. So this is also a very nice responsibility of a king to give his praja or to give his kingsmen uh, this knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And secondly, here it is mentioned that he was living as an ideal king, Maharaj Yudhishthir, and his whole energy was he was giving. He was not only a great devotee of the Lord, but he was equal to all the people in general. And because of this thing, Maharaj Yudhishthir not only gave all the things to the people in general, but he also gave the culture, the spiritual culture, which is the uh, USP, unique selling proposition, which is for all people in general. So from here we can learn that how he was able to lead all the state administration and management of the whole affairs, because he was the great devotee of the Lord. Because Yudhishthir Maharaj was greatly devoted to the Lord, and he was following the scriptures, he was following the instructions of the Lord. So when we follow the scriptures or instructions of the Lord, then what happens? Our life becomes peaceful, because when people follow the scriptures, they live longer, they live happier, and all the auspicious things come into their life. But if they don't do like that, then what happens? These other diseases and other insecurities, they just uh, come in between, and they hamper their lives. So this also happens. So what we should do, we should always try to learn these shastras or the spiritual knowledge, and after learning we should try to implement that in our lives, because after implementing we will be able to lead a peaceful life, and we will also able to pass on this knowledge to our future generations, so that they can also become the devotees of the Lord, and they can perfect their lives in Krishna consciousness. and our movement's name is Krishna conscious movement, right? So in this moment we should do some movement, and we should not be static. We should always do something in the service of the Lord. As we discussed, there are 9 limbs of the bhakti: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So there are 9 limbs of the bhakti. So we should also try to engage ourselves in some activities. Sometimes we should hear about the Lord, sometimes we should chant about the Lord, sometimes we should work for the Lord, or sometimes we should go to the pilgrimage place where the Lord done his pastimes, performed his pastimes. Or we should always try to surrender our Lord. Whatever we buy or whatever we earn, we should do some charity, or we should do some donation, or we should do things in such a way that we should always remember the Lord. And in that way, we can make our life perfect. So we will move on to the next shloka, text number 5. Sampada krita voloka mahishi vratoro mahi jambudvipadhipatyam cha yasasya tridivam gatam. Translation purport by Shila Prabhupada, Jai Shila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hari.
Ah. Go ahead, Madam Ji.
Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna. News even reached the celestial planet about Maharaj Yudhishthira worldly possessions, the sacrifices by which he would attain a better destination, his queen, his stalwart brothers, his extensive land, his sovereignty over the planet Earth, his fame, etc. Purport. Only a rich and great man's name and fame are known all over the world, and the name and fame of Maharaja Yudhishthir reached the higher planets because of his good administration, worldly possessions, glorious wife Draupadi, and the strength of his brothers Bhima and Arjuna, and his solid sovereign power over the world, known as Jambudipa. Here, the word Loka is significant. There are different Lokas or higher planets scattered all over the sky, both material and spiritual. A person can reach them by dint of his work in the present life. He stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.25. No forceful entrance is allowed there. The tiny material scientists and engineers who have discovered vehicles to travel over a few thousand miles in outer space will not be allowed entrance. That is not the way to reach the better planets. One must qualify himself to enter into such happy planets by sacrifice and service. Those who are sinful in every step of life can expect only to be degraded into animal life, to suffer more and pangs of material existence. And this is also stated in Bhagavad Gita 16.19. Maharaja Yudhishthir's good sacrifice and qualifications were so lofty and virtuous that even the residents of the higher celestial planets were already prepared to receive him as one of them. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Now even, yeah. So here Yudhishthir Maharaj's fame has been described by Sutta Goswami. So Yudhishthir Maharaj was not only famous in this earthly planet, but he was famous all over the world and all over the universe. And his his glories were sang in the upper planetary systems also, where in the Swarga Loka also, because the Gandharvas, the Kim Purushas, the Apsaras, and all the demigods were singing the glories of the Yudhishthir Maharaj, because of his being a devotee of Lord Sri Krishna. And because he was devoted to the Lord, so he was ruling in that way, and because of that, all good fortune came to him. So when we serve the Lord and these devotees, when we obey them, when we follow their instructions, all auspiciousness comes to our life as well. So this is the teaching we can take from here. And he was having all great brothers: Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. And he was always been guided by Lord Sri Krishna at every step of his life, and he was having a very nice wife called Draupadi, and she was very chaste, devoted, and Sarvagun Sampanna. She was having all good qualities in in herself. And Yudhishthir Maharaj was having very nice land. He was the emperor of the world, because before he gave the kingdom to Maharaj Parikshit, he was the ruling emperor of the whole world, and he was ruling in such a way that that everybody was happy with him, all the cows, all the animals, all the people in general, and there was no scarcity of anything. Everything was getting profusely, like rain was coming profusely on time to time. The earth used to produce all the uh, uh, jewels or fruits, food, all the grains, so there was no scarcity of anything, because he was the great devotee of the Lord, and he was ruling the kingdom as the representative of the Lord. So, because of this thing, he was so much successful in his life. And Yudhishthir Maharaj, as we discussed earlier, Ajata Shatru, and nobody was thinking him as his enemy. And Yudhishthir Maharaj was also not thinking that he is my enemy or he is my friend. He was equal to everyone. So this is the glory of Yudhishthira Maharaj, which was been sang in the upper planetary systems and all over the world, and his fame was spreading like anything. His fame was spreading like anything. And just in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is very nice verse which Narad Muni speaks to Yudhishthir Maharaj during this Rajasriya Yajna, which Yudhishthir Maharaj performs. And Yudhishthir Maharaj performs as many yajnas. He does many yajnas. He gives lots and lots of charity, and he is always equal to everybody. He always tries to go to others in a Krishna conscious way. So because of that, everything was very nicely um, controlled by him, and things were going all smooth in his kingdom. And Narad Muni speaks this verse to Yudhishthira Maharaj in the Rajya Yajna, that yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarver gunas tatra samsati sura harau abhaktasya kuto mahad guna manorathena sati dhavato bhahi. गुणैरलम असंख्यैर महात्म्यम तस्य सूच्यते वासुदेवे भगवती यस्य नैसर्गिकी रति. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, Narad Muni talks to speaks to Yudhishthira Maharaj about Prahlad Maharaj, that Guneralam Asankher Mahatmyam Tasya Suchyate Vasudeve Bhagavati Yasya Nisargiki Rati. That there were many good qualities in Prahlad Maharaj. Narad Muni tells to Yudhishthira Maharaj, but one of the most primemost good quality of Prahlad Maharaj was that he was always devoted. Or yes, Guneralam Asankhyer Mahatmam Tasya Suchyate Vasudeve Bhagavati Yasya Nesargiki Rati. He was having unflinching faith and devotional service attitude towards the Lord full-heartedly. So, when we become the devotee of the Lord, all good qualities manifest in ourselves, and because of that good qualities, we uh, we go ahead and we please everybody, and because of that, our this auspicious good fortune comes to us, and because of that, we'll be always be happy and we'll always be successful in our lives, because we have taken the shelter of the Lord. Because those who take the Lord's shelter, the Lord protects him and gives him everything, and he also protects what uh, what he has, and he supplies what he has. Ananya Sintayanto Mam Yejana Pari Upasate Tesham Nitya Abhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam. Lord Sri Krishna tells this to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, that Ananya Sintayanto Mam Yejana Pari Upasate, that those who have unflinching faith in me and those who serve me with wholeheartedly, I protect what they have, and what they lack, I will provide them. So the Lord gives everything to his pure devotees who are selflessly serving him, and other people in general in a Krishna consciousness way. So when we are also do come in this mood of helping others in a Krishna conscious way by giving Bhagavad Gita to everybody, to someone, or by giving Krishna Prasad, or by giving some uh, uh, other things, or by inviting them to this Krishna consciousness, then what happens? This is the best charity we can do towards other, and by doing that, everybody will be pleased. The Devata will be also be pleased, and all the people in general will be pleased, and ultimately the Lord will also be pleased. So this is the success formula of Maharaj Yudhishthir, which is very inspiring for us. Then we'll move on to our next sloka, text number 6. किं ते कामसुरास्पर्ह मुकुन्द मानसो द्विजः आदिजाहुर्मुडं राजना क्षुदितस्य यथेतर. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Sri Krishna. Translation: O Brahmanas, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that the denizens of heavens aspired for it. But because he was absorbed in the service of the Lord, nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service. Purport. There are two things in the world which can satisfy living beings. When one is materially engrossed, he is satisfied only by sense gratification. But when one is liberated from the conditions of the material modes, he is satisfied only by rendering loving service for the satisfaction of the Lord. This means that the living being is constitutionally a servitor and not one who is served. Being illusioned by the conditions of the external energy, one falsely thinks himself to be the served, but actually is not served. He is servant of the senses like dust, lust, desire, anger, avarice, pride, mindness, and intolerance. When one is in his proper senses by attainment of spiritual knowledge, he realizes that he is not the master of the material world, but is only a servant of the senses. At that time, he begs for the service of the Lord and thus becomes happy without being illusioned by so-called material happiness. Maharaja Yudhishthira was one of the liberated souls, and therefore for him, there was no pleasure in a vast kingdom, good wife, obedient brothers, happy subjects, and prosperous world. These blessings automatically follow for a pure devotee, even though the devotee does not aspire for them. The example set herein is exactly suitable. It is said that one who is hungry is never satisfied by anything other than food. The whole material world is full of hungry living beings. The hunger is not for good food, shelter, or sense gratification. The hunger is for the spiritual atmosphere. Due to ignorance, only they think that the world is dissatisfied because there is not sufficient food, shelter, defense, and objects of sense gratification. This is called illusion. When the living being is hungry for spiritual satisfaction, he is misrepresented by material hunger. But the foolish leaders cannot see that even the people who are most sumptuously materially satisfied are still hungry. And what is their hunger and poverty? This is hunger is actually for spiritual food, spiritual shelter, spiritual defense, and spiritual sense gratification. These can be obtained in the association of the Supreme Spirit, Lord Sri Krishna, and therefore one who has them cannot be attracted by the so-called food, shelter, defense, and sense gratification of the material world, even if they are related by diligence of the heavenly planets. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, it is said by the Lord that even in the topmost planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka, where the duration of life is multiplied by the millions of years by earth calculation, one cannot satisfy his hunger. Such hunger can be satisfied only when the living being is situated in immortality, which is attained in the spiritual sky, far, far above the Brahmaloka, in the association of Lord Mukunda, the Lord who awards his devotees the transcendental pleasure of liberation. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much. So very big purport, yet very important and meaningful. So, Lord, because of being a pure devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Yudhishthir's fame was spreading all over the universe, and the denizens of heaven were also aspiring for that opulence which Yudhishthir Maharaj was having. But this opulence was received by Yudhishthir Maharaj because of being the pure devotee of the Lord. And although Yudhishthir Maharaj was the emperor of the whole world, but still internally within his heart, he was thinking that he is the servant of the Lord. And Jivera Swarup hai Krishna Nitya Das. And when we understand ourselves, or when we uh, convince ourselves that I am not the Karta, I am not the doer is the Lord, I am just the Nimitta Matra, I am just the instrument in the hands of the Lord, then that is the best qualification which will help us to progress in our spiritual life. Because when we think that I am the president, I am the man, I am the uh, manager, or I am the owner, or I am this, I am that, so when we wrap up ourselves in this false uh, coverings, then what happens, we tend to commit mistakes and we do sense gratification. But when we understand that whatever I have is by the mercy of the Lord, and whatever I will engage in that the same things in the service of the Lord, then the Lord becomes very much pleased. And because of this attitude, the Lord bestows us more and more, more and more. So the Lord gave so much opulence to the Yudhishthir Maharaj so that he should become an ideal king and he should set example for all the people in general. So that was the motto of Lord Sri Krishna, and that's why he arranged this war of Kurukshetra so that Maharaj Yudhishthir is enthroned in the Singhasan, or in the uh, royal throne of this Hastinapur, and he should rule a kingdom with on the principles of dharma, religion, and and he should lead the praja, or the people in general, not only with good quality of life, but he should also be revealed to them that what is the quality of life they will get it after the end of this life. So ultimately, this Yudhishthir Maharaj was a liberated soul, and he was always in the service of the Lord. And because of this service attitude, he was always dear to the Lord and the Lord. And when we don't have this karta bhav, or when we don't have this doer attitude, then the Lord gives us so much things, and he makes us the instrument so that we can do something good for the Lord and to please the Lord. And secondly, as a very nice example Srila Prabhupada gives here, that a hungry man can be attracted by only food. So similarly, we are also hungry people. We are all hungry, but we are not hungry for food or happiness of this world. We are hungry for that thing which is lacking in our heart. And that lacking thing is the knowledge of Krishna, or the relation of the Lord. Because of this forgetful relationship, people are suffering. People have everything, uh, all people have money, people have health, wealth, everything they have, but still, because of that inner uh, fulfillment is not there, they are suffering like anything. But when we bring Krishna in our lives, or when we bring Krishna in our hearts, then we actually become satisfied, and then only will be able to become joyful. And for a devotee is not after these material things, like name, fame, money, prestige, power. The devotees are not after this. The devotees are all after the service of the Lord. They are always trying and hankering how I can please the Lord, how I can bring one smile on the lotus like moon like face of the Lord. So this is the endeavors of a devotee. And when the devotee endeavors like this, the Lord becomes pleased, and the Lord gives things profusely, because the Lord knows that this is my devotee, and he will engage all things in my service only. So this is the beauty of the Lord and his pure devotees. And even though there is a Brahma Loka, Swarga Loka, and so many topmost planets, so many topmost planets, but the devotee is not been charmed by this temporary words, because the devotees knows that my original destination is the back home, back to Godhead, the Goloka Vrindavan. So the devotees are always hankering how I can go back home, back to Godhead, and how I can take the other people back home, back to Godhead. This is the only worry of the Lord. So this is the only the worry of the Lord, or worry of the devotees, because the devotees are always engaged in this preaching work of the Lord, and the Lord also becomes very pleased, and the Lord gives the special mercy to those devotees who try to preach the glories of the Lord. And Yudhishthir Maharaj was exemplifying a perfect example of being a king, and he was leading his praja, or the people in general, his subjects, in the right direction, in the service of the Lord. And he was ruling on the principles of dharma, jnana, and other siddhantas. And this was beneficial not only for him, but also for the people in general, so that they can take the right culture, that spiritual culture, in their lives, and they can also make their life perfect. So we'll move on to our final shloka for today. Text 7. Matur garbho gato viraha satada भृगो nandana dadarsha purusham kanche dadhya manoastra tejasa. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
O son of Bhrigu, Shaunaka, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttara and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Ashwatthama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of Father Sriman, and thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in specific bodies according to one's past action. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he wants to come out of it, and sometimes fortunately prays to the Lord for such liberation. Maharaja Parikshit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra released by the Ashwatthama, and he was feeling the burning heat. And but because he was a devotee of the Lord, and the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all powerful energy, and the child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. And for this reason, the word Virah has been used. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Uh,
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Prabhu, what is the opening sentence? Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months.
Yes, Prabhu. I will just explain now. So here, Sutta Goswami also speaks further. Earlier, he speak about Yudhishthir Maharaj, and now because in order to introduce Parikshit Maharaj, Sutta Goswami is giving this narration of the hierarchy, or the how this Parikshit Maharaj descended from which parampara, or from which family people. So who was the king before that? So that's why the Sutta Goswami gives a detailed narration of Maharaj Yudhishthir, and now he speaks that the great this great child was the great fighter. And when now he comes to the point that when he was in the womb of the mother Maharaj Parikshit, Uttara is the wife of Abhimanyu. So Abhimanyu already died in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and now Uttara is having this child in her womb, and he was suffering with the heat, a burning heat of the Brahmastra, which was released by Ashwadhama. So there the Lord uh, came and protected him. So because of this, we learned that he was named as Parikshit. And now Srila Prabhupada gives us very nice purport to this, that remaining in trance for 7 months. So this is this the death generally involves remaining trance for 7 months. So this is the description is given about the child who is in the womb of his mother. So up to 7 months, it is like a death, or he was living in the dead stage there. And as per the his past karmas, through the father's semen uh, is being discharged in the mother's womb, and then as per the soul's past karma, he is being given this opportunity to take the human form of life and to um lead his life in the right manner as per his karmic reactions. So when he is awake from the trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb. So after this 7 months, he actually develops properly, and so up to 7 months, it is like death, because there is no that moment there, because after 7 months, all the body parts or the heartbeat and all it develops, and then he realizes, oh, I am in this miserable condition inside the womb of my mother. It is such a dark place. And so in that difficult stage, sometimes the fortunate soul prays to the Lord that, oh Lord, please save me. How I am been entrapped here. So please protect me. For this beautiful narration mentioned here, a short explanation mentioned here, it will all come in the Srimad Bhagavatam's third canto and 31st chapter, which is all about the soul who is in the womb of the mother, how he comes in the womb of the mother, like karmana daiva netrena jantur devopapattaye striya pravishta udaram pumso reta kanashrayah. That which we discussed here, that through the father's semen it has been injected in the mother's womb, and then uh, uh, the semen develops, and the soul comes as per the his past karma, and then uh, uh, it expands, the embryo expands. It has been fully this particular chapter has been given in this third canto, 31st chapter, which is entitled that about the state of a soul in the womb of the mother. So this state is been briefly explained here, that how till 7 months he is in quite inactive stage, and then as he develops his bodily parts, then he realizes, no, I am in this pitiable condition, and then sometimes he fortunately prays to the Lord. And Maharaj Parikshit was also in this position, in this situation, and Brahmastra was released by Ashwatthama, so he was feeling all the more pain. But when the Lord comes, he forgets his pain. He forgets this burning sensation, Maharaj Parikshit, and then he observes the Lord, that how the Lord is saving him. Uh, at that time, although he was not able to fix who is this Lord, because there was so much effulgence coming from him. So that's why, but he could see that he was dressed in nice pitambar vastra, silken garments, and all, and beautiful kundalas and all, and he is of the shape of just one thumb. So in a way, in a, such a very small form, the Lord appeared in the womb of the mother and protected the Maharaj Parikshit. And Parikshit Maharaj could see that someone has come, but because of that so much effulgence, he couldn't see that who was the Lord, but he could identify the Lord's beautiful form. And even though in that helpless condition, he was very much attracted with the beauty of the Lord. And then when Maharaj Parikshit born, he was always searching for that same personality, and that's why he has been known as Parikshit, which we discussed earlier. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we have uh, concluded, we are now concluding this seventh verse, which we very beautifully came from the conversation of Suta Goswami and Saunak Rishis. And now we will hear further that what happened and how this Maharaj Parikshit was born, and then how the other Yudhishthir Maharaj and other brothers, how they performed the rituals for this samskaras for Maharaj Parikshit's birth, and how they gave the charities, and how they took blessings of the brahmanas and all. That will come in the following verses and chapters, which will also help us to understand this beautiful episode of the birth of Maharaj Parikshit. Hare Krishna. So I would like to stop here. If anybody has any comments or questions, please kindly unmute your mic and ask. I will try to answer them, whatever I have heard from my superiors. So thank you so very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I understood because that sentence was slightly troubling. Hare Krishna and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Happy New Year. And this chapter, Prabhu, is been very nicely explained in the third canto, 31st chapter. When you get time, you can also read that. So in that, all the prayers which the soul offers in the womb of the Lord, in the womb of the mother to the Lord, is very beautifully explained. And this chapter usually we our senior devotees recommend to the mothers who are in the pregnancy time, so that will help them to bring that child into Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Happy New Year.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna,
Hare,
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. You were telling about in the third canto, which chapter you was telling about this birth and all?
Yes, Mother, it is in third chapter, third canto, chapter 31.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Okay.
I will just tell you the title of this chapter. Just a moment.
I think the movement of living entity, I think that is the.
Yes, bro. The moment of living entities.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, you said these 7 months are the same as the inactive state of the child in the womb of the mother. I was just wondering whether that was perfect.
Yes, bro. It is mentioned here, but the detailed thing we will get in this particular chapter, this
But
third canto, 31st chapter.
Prabhu, we will speak about this. Somehow I thought this involves being inactive outside the body of any living entity. This is what I was under the assumption. We will discuss separately, no problem.
Yes, bro. If the next class is of Radhapat Pankaj Prabhu or other senior devotee Uddhav Presh Prabhu or yours, then we will try to ask questions on this matter also, and we will get some more clarity, Prabhu.
हाँ प्रभु मैं भी थोड़ा पढ़ लेता हूँ मैं भी श्योर थैंक यू प्रभु
Okay, bro. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much, thank you very much for the class. Or anybody has any question, or can we wrap up today? Doesn't look like. Okay, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, and thanks a lot, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripasindhu bhavacha patitaram pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. उपस्थित भक्त वृंद की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. हरि हरि
Hare
बोल.
Hare Bol.
हरे
Hare Krishna. Thank you.